Reykjavik. It sits on an island poised between the great continents of Europe and North America. Northernmost capital in the world, it's a small, spectacular city whose 200,000 inhabitants make up 2/3 of Iceland's entire population.
Iceland, of course, is many things, but Reykjavik is everything combined, really.
There aren't many ways to get here, but it's definitely worth the trip. Reykjavik, the only city of its size in this country of vast empty spaces, has the human scale of a village. The second largest city in the country is home to only 16,000 people. Wander only a short distance outside the city, and you're in landscapes you'll find nowhere else in the world. Stone-covered plains without a single tree. Oh, and an active volcano.
We can't understand the Icelandic people if we don't understand the climate, the volcanoes, and the mountains.
Volcanic zones cover more than a quarter of Iceland's geography, but the heat produced by Reykjavik's geothermal powerhouses is harnessed, providing the city with all the energy it could ever need. In fact, there is more energy here than the entire country uses, even with the intense demands of its Nordic climate.
I think we are producing the most energy per capita in the world.
Iceland is an insular nation, and Reykjavik being its main port city has always been a link with the rest of the world. Gisli Gislason, director of the port, tells me how it has evolved over the years.
We are now at one of the places where the harbor was once. All the land we are standing on now is landfill. It has been filled up. The old harbor was much nearer to the harbor house. And through the years, there has been a lot of development.
Someone told me that about 80% of your goods are imported.
That's right. We handle about, here in the Faxa ports, we handle about 50% of everything comes in, everything goes out.
So we're taking off. We are in the old port.
The old port has been changing from being cargo harbor, service harbor, fishing harbor, cultural harbor. So we have the concert hall, we have tourism here.
Puffin
sea
watching?
angling, yeah, puffin watching, yeah. And then we're trying to mix everything together here in the west side of the harbor with fish and culture and so on. There we have the whale boats. It's very interesting. On the one side, there are the whaling boats, and on the other side, there are the whale watching boats. So they live peacefully together. So that's not a problem.
Tourism is one of Iceland's growing industries, and with such a small population, the mass of visitors doesn't go unnoticed.
Are there a lot of tourists in Iceland?
Yeah, there are about 300,000 tourists each year.
Equivalent to your population?
Yeah, and everybody is hoping that they can increase tourism, which is good, but I think it has to be done in steps. And the harbor is quite huge in the tourism because to Reykjavik there are coming each year about 80 cruise ships, about 60,000 passengers, and the ships are getting larger and larger. It has a great economic impact on the Reykjavik area.
Not much grows in a climate like this, and what does isn't edible. Most food eaten here is imported. like pretty much everything else. But if there's one thing that's always available, it's definitely fish.
So is most of the fish that's exported processed?
Most of it is exported frozen, but then also we export fresh fish. Probably a lot of the fish and chips in England, they come from Iceland as frozen fish. So they need us. In one way or another, every family in Iceland is quite connected to the sea and the fishermen. Definitely.
We're in the fish processing plant, which is right in the center of Reykjavik.
Center of Reykjavik, yeah. Reykjavik has been a big harbor and city for fish and fish processing through the years. Without fish, Reykjavik would be much poorer city than it is today. It's not only for people to work with, it's not only the economy of Reykjavik, but it's also long tradition.
So now we are entering Iceland.
Absolutely. The real Iceland.
Real thing. As if I wasn't cold enough already.
No.
It's 28 degrees here. Here we are, this is from cod roast. The light salt that we're doing now. It's very fresh fish to need to get this quality.
So do you process different fish at different times?
Yes, change maybe 2 or 3 times a day. We produce cod, haddock, ling, blue ling, and brosme or tuss.
What is the most sought after fish here in Iceland?
But it's changing more to cod now and other species. That haddock is the most popular fish that Icelandic people eat.
International waters are not far from the shores. How come there's no fishing shortage?
We are not allowed to catch a lot of fish, we think. Fish. We should be catching much more than we are catching. So, but we have kept our grounds very well.
How far is the international limit?
200 miles.
It started in the 18th century, then it was 5 miles. 5 miles was because then the cannons could shoot 5 miles out. But then, well, I'm not going to verify
you
that.
want to lure the enemy.
Yeah, well, the British trawlers, the Frenchmen, the Belgians, they came right to the shore, and people were trying to get them further out. But then in 56 or 58, then it was moved to 12 miles. And then in 71 or 2, it was out to 50 miles, and then to 200 miles.
After witnessing the overfishing brought about by the extension of territorial waters, Iceland took measures to limit damaging fishing practices. But the quotas, of course, don't make everyone happy.
The fishermen, the processing people, they think they are too conservative. But the scientists say this is the limit. So the ministers sometimes go in between to keep everybody fairly unhappy or fairly happy. It was so valuable in one time that Icelanders thought that this was the right coat of arms for Iceland.
Yeah. To put on the flag.
Yeah, put it on the flag.
And I am done with the frozen fish. I'm sure we can find the fresh stuff somewhere around here.
They call it ice age trout, which is 15, 20 pounds. So it's... That is good. Ja.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, it's good. Melts in your mouth.
Yes.
Yeah. No, just a sample of the gourmet we have here in Reykjavik.
Whale fat.
Yeah. Well, it tastes different for the first time, but...
It tastes completely different than anything I've ever had.
No, but it's, actually, I love it.
People have lived here for more than 1,100 years. Throughout most of its history, Reykjavik was a village. It's only in recent years that its population exploded. The city has had to adjust to its new identity and importance.
Reykjavik is a really, really young city, and actually where we are now, in this sort of, this is the heart of Reykjavik, if you like. This is the center. This is where it all began. And there's a lovely black house over there, and that house was built by the founder of Reykjavik. He'd been studying in Denmark, which was sort of, you know, we were a part of Denmark right up until 1944. And so he came back with all these ideas, and many people thought they were crazy ideas, and nothing would come of it. He had these industry ideas. He wanted to make cloth, and he wanted to export fish and do all sorts of things. And so he started this village, which was Reykjavik, 300 years ago. Reykjavik in 1785 or something, and it's only about 20 houses. And then a couple of hundred years later, I know it's not London or...
But still, it's a population explosion.
Yes, and I think it explains a lot about who we are and why the city is like it is. It's because it's so young and it became a city so quickly.
You've been very busy.
We've been busy. We're a busy nation. We're a busy people.
And these columns here decided where exactly the city of Reykjavik would stand.
Yes, because you know, the man who found Iceland, Ingólfur Arnarson, and he was sailing on this ship from Norway, and it was a custom in these Viking times to throw these pillars overboard to find a place of settlement. And the pillars came to this place, and he saw steam coming up from the earth, because there's so much geothermal energy here. And that's why he called it Reykjavik, which is Steamy Bay or Smoky Bay. This is really a fantastic place for Icelandic history, because this is Main Street. This is the first street of Reykjavik. And a couple of years back, there was another house standing here, and these guys had bought it and they wanted to pull it down and build a new one, this hotel. And that's fine. More life into the center and blah, blah, blah. But there are rules in Reykjavik that if you're doing some rebuilding in the center of town, you have to do this excavation because there are so many remains here. And nobody expects much happening, but they tore the house down and they started to dig, and mon Dieu, what did they find? They found this settlement. And we believe, or the archaeologists and the historians believe, that this is really one of the first settlements in the country, and they can decide that by looking at the ground layers, because there are so many volcano eruptions, so you can time happenings from
Layers
the
of
soil.
lava.
Yes, exactly. So this is 871, which is the time that we believe that Ingólfur came to Iceland. So this may be his house. Less than 100 years ago, and there was sheep grazing here. I mean, because the city was so small that this was sort of far east of the city. Everything that's built east from here is built almost after the Second World War. Second World War, people just swarmed into Reykjavik to work for the British Army and then the American Army, and the city just grew and grew into all directions. The grey house beside the cathedral, that's our House of Parliament, which was built by Danes in the late 18th century.
It used to be in Þingvellir.
Þingvellir, yes, that's right.
Pronounced?
Þingvellir.
Of course.
Yes.
Exactly.
And Þing means parliament, so it's like the valley of parliament, Þingvellir. The trick with the Icelandic language is that it's really, really transparent. It always means what it says. Like this pavement is called gangstétt. Gang means walking, and stétt means like a flat area.
Right, so everything
Yes.
is described in literal terms.
Yes, and tölva, which is computer, tölva is, it's a beautiful word, it's one of my favorites, is put together of the word tala, which is number, and the völva, which is the wise woman who can foresee the future. So that's tölva, which is this machine that can do all your mathematics and is sort of a seer into the future.
And the future, Reykjavik seems to foresee it with very modern eyes.
You're quite insular here in that you're an island far away from everything.
Yeah.
However, you have a broad view on the world.
Yes, I think so, and I think it's so important, and I think we're so lucky to have that. A high percentage of those who do take a university education, they do the first bit here, and then they go to Europe and the States and South Africa, Brazil, anywhere really. And most of them, and this is the best part, most of them, instead of staying there, they choose to come back, bringing with them all sorts of theories and practices and knowledge, and shaping them and reshaping them here. I think this is defining for us as a nation, and I think this is also a definition of a small nation, that you can't fulfill all your dreams or expectations here, so you go away and you find them elsewhere, but you bring them back.
Reykjavik has always had an eccentric relationship with the outside world, and its port has always played a vital role in its development.
Here we're standing in front of this incredibly yellow house. On the other side of that house, 100 years ago, the seafront was there. That was our connection to the world. 150 years ago, there was like one spring ship and one autumn ship traveling to and forth Iceland. That was the only way to get away and to get back. That was like twice a year. And there are all these beautiful historic moments connected to the harbour.
One of these historic moments was the return of the saga manuscripts to their homeland.
The Danes, because we were a part of Denmark, they had rescued the manuscripts at some point, centuries ago, and had kept them as their own. But our past is in those manuscripts. That's what we made, that's us, really. So it was really important for the Icelandic nation to get these manuscripts back. And they came back in the 50s, and they came back by ship. It was like if the British Museum would return the mummies to Egypt.
And the comparison seems accurate, especially when we realize how vital these stories and legends are to the history of Iceland. I had the incredible opportunity of meeting one of Iceland's ex-presidents, Vigdis Finnbogadóttir. She was the world's first democratically elected female head of state and served as president for 16 years. She remains a true ambassador of her country and knows a little something about the value of its written history.
It's always very interesting when you come to a foreign country and it's expected that you only talk about politics or things like that. This has to be done, of course. But at the same time, to introduce the culture of your country. Icelandic is one of the oldest Nordic languages, having written down the history of the Nordic countries. We live with the elements in Iceland. We live with the volcanoes. We live with natural hot water. We are so taken by nature that we become a part of that nature.
And there is something very particular about nature in Iceland. No forests and virtually no trees. As the volcanoes produce fields of rock and ash, next to nothing grows here. And there are precious few natural resources. To survive and to grow, Icelanders have found another raw material: words. The brutal and isolating winter nights are warmed by a rich tradition of storytelling. Stories, legends, and poems form Iceland's cultural core, and the most important literary elements of this history are the sagas, the true heart and soul of the nation's identity. The sagas were written during the 12th and 13th centuries. Filled with epic tales of battles, voyages, and family feuds, these documents also contain a great deal of wisdom and philosophy. They also act as an inspiration to how one should treat their fellow man.
Daginn eftir gengu kvárir tveggja til Lögbergs og nefndu kvárir vátta kristnir menn og heiðnir og sögðust kvárir úr lögum annara og var þá svo. This is the chapter number 105 in Njál saga, and it's a beautiful literature about how Christianity was accepted in Iceland. There were people that had been abroad and had heard about Christianity and thought that it was better to believe in one God than in many gods.
The introduction of Christianity took over the belief systems that had existed here. But the ancient legends certainly did not die. Tales of elves, trolls, and magic are all alive and well and still celebrated by some.
And thought that a person that believes in this elf stories, but we want to maintain them. We do it on purpose to maintain them, because if we let them go, the flora of our legend and literature would disappear, and that would be very sad. Never forget the fantasy, never forget the imagination. It's all for telling stories and inventing stories, and I think it's in a way so admirable throughout the centuries, using always the word. The word is free. The word is a tool for creation. It's a tool for artistic work. And to use the only thing that's free, I think it's absolutely admirable. It's kind of an echo of the human behavior. And you know, whenever you start telling stories, people start listening.
Astrid Lelalche is a French urban planner interested in the development of cities. She takes me for a walk in the oldest part of Reykjavik to tell me about the history of its housing.
At the turn of the 20th century, Reykjavik was a small town with about 5,000 people. It was barely a city. But it began to develop with the rising importance of navigation and fisheries. And so the authorities realized the growing need to plan the city's expansion. Based on the urban development trends in Europe, they decided to build a ring road around the city, called the Ringbrot. This road has lost its importance, but it still sets the limits to Reykjavik 101, which is the part of the city we're in now. Every city in the world was initially a village, obviously. Many of the world's cities were transformed dramatically during the 19th century due to rapid industrialization. They had to grow extremely quickly. The approach here, in order to adapt to the changing needs in transportation and communications, was to destroy massively. But even with that, we can still see some of the tiny houses of the original village still standing today. The grid on which the streets were built is very straight. But behind these very rational and aligned streets, we can find the occasional interior yard with the houses that were left behind. It's the village and the villagers that were forgotten behind the new city.
Reykjavik's architecture has a decidedly functional character. With a lack of trees, wood was never a dominant building material. This reality forced a very pragmatic and efficient approach to construction and housing. As you can see, undulated metal siding is definitely part of the urban landscape. This is because the barracks built by the British Army that came here during the Second World War were built with this metal. There was too much of it, so it became the cheap and accessible material of choice. The result is this. Coincidentally, this type of outer shell is perfectly fit for a city in which rain and heavy wind are more than just frequent. Have you noticed that every building is no higher than 2 or 3 stories? The reason is very simple. Reykjavik is at the top of the world, and the sun here hangs very low on the horizon. Its light is more precious than anywhere else, so everyone is sensitive about creating shadows. The small population, cold climate, and culture of storytelling have brought the people of Reykjavik very close to one another. Solveig Sima, a local actress, tells me about the city's human element and the proximity that binds its population. First things first, Icelandic lessons. No simple task. The name of this street, for example,
Skólavörðustígur. Skóla.
Skåla.
Ouais, vörðu.
Verdu.
Stígur.
Stígur.
And the church up the street is called
Hallgrímskirkja. Hallgrímskirkja.
On a Hallgrímskirkja.
Alors on a un.
We have 2 sounds that are unique to Iceland. One is like this, the tongue on the palate,
Hallgrímskirkja.
Et puis on a aussi un autre
and another, very local, is to breathe in as you're talking, like this.
son comme ça. On fait oui, oui. Voilà.
Let's go.
Les hivers sont rudes.
The winters are very harsh. It's always dark, so we stay inside our homes quite a bit. But when the weather's nice, everyone rushes outside, and we stay out all day, sometimes all night. In the winter, we're close to our families, the grandmothers, the kids, the sisters and brothers. We're in a city, a capital, but the atmosphere is almost village-like, and everyone knows each other, at least by sight.
Au moins se connaît de vue.
Reykjavik has grown and is no longer the village it once was. But even as a city, here, there are no barriers or real distinctions between social classes. Grocery shopping alongside the president is actually a common thing.
Comme on est tous cousins, on se connaît tous.
We're all like cousins here, and we all know each other. And all the social classes are present within each family.
On vont même dîner de famille et il n'y a pas de différence.
There's no hierarchy like you'd find in other countries, especially in the West and in Europe.
Surtout des pays de l'Ouest ou d'Europe.
This is a place of tradition. One of the most important family traditions is the fact that names are passed on from one generation to another. You can't really invent a new name in Iceland.
La loi le permet, mais en
The law allows it, but we don't really do it because we're proud of being part of a family. It gives us a sense of belonging.
filiation. Et par exemple, moi je m'appelle Solveig.
For example, my name is Solveig, and my mother's name is Anna Solveig. And my mother's sister is also Solveig, and her other sister too. So our family is known for its women named Solveig.
Notre famille à nous est connue pour avoir des femmes qui s'appellent Solveig.
For foreigners, it's not easy finding someone when everyone has the same name. In Iceland, there are no last names. No joke. You're either the daughter of, dóttir, or the son of, son. But the locals have other ways to distinguish themselves. In the phone book, for example, the profession is usually next to the name, so you can find the right person with the same name as all the others.
Par exemple, regarde là, il y a.
Look here, all these people are named Olavrio Hansen. Olavrio Hansen, Olavrio Hansen, well, there are 5.
Alors celui-là, il est prêtre.
This one's a priest, so we can find him. This one's a publicist. And this one's a carpenter. This one here is a journalist. And it's possible that they're all cousins, or that one is the other's grandfather.
Grand-père de l'autre. Tu vois, peut-être que celui-là, c'est le grand-père de celui-là.
To get a first-hand look at the close bond between the locals, all you have to do is visit one of the many hot water public pools in the city.
C'est parce qu'on a de l'eau.
We have natural hot water that comes directly from the ground. And the best way to use it is in a pool or a jacuzzi outside.
Ici à l'extérieur. Ça coûte rien.
It doesn't cost anything, it's just water.
Minéraux, donc c'est
and it's very rich in minerals, so it's good for the skin and the muscles. The pools are the place where we all meet. There can even be important political decisions made here, and very important discussions.
Et puis il y a différents horaires, il y a différents groupes de personnes.
Water is a gift. We have the chance of never running out of it, and this is why we have exterior pools.
And the best part, these pools are open all year round, and just as full in the winter as in the summer.
Wherever you go in Iceland, there are pools, absolutely everywhere. It's water that comes out so hot that we have to cool it down. In this country, we actually have to cool water down, and where you're from, you have to heat it up.
Hot water in Reykjavik is the source of all energy. Over 55 million tons of naturally heated water is pumped into the city each year. I visit a geothermal plant to learn how the energy obtained from the volcanic fissures is harnessed and used for the greater good.
Of all energy used in Iceland, we have about 80% renewable, and about 30% is hydro, and about 50% is geothermal. And that's both for electricity and house heating. And 9 out of every 10 houses in Iceland is heated with geothermal energy. There are two kinds of systems. We have what we call low temperature systems. That's where the water is only about 100 degrees. That water we use directly for heating. We just pipe it from the wells directly to each home. In a station like this, we have much higher temperatures. We have temperatures up to 300 degrees here. The water is in the form of steam with huge pressure. Then we start using the pressure to make electricity. Then later on, when we've already produced electricity, we use it to heat up cold water that we pipe to town with a pipeline that is about 20 kilometers long from here.
With the expertise gained by harnessing all this natural energy, I'd bet there's a way to export these ideas, to provide for a greener tomorrow.
We have been doing that a little. We have been working in Eastern Europe, for example, and we have been working in California. But actually, the interest in geothermal harnessing hasn't been that much for the last few decades. It was very much during the oil crisis in the 1970s, but then it diminished rather steeply until about 2-3 years ago. Then it started again. Basically, we are getting the fluid here from the wells up to 300 degrees hot, and then it's a combination of steam and water. The steam goes this way, the water goes down here, and this is a kind of a regulating hood for the pressure, so we have even pressure that's going here into the system. Then the steam goes here into the turbine and drives the rotor that creates electricity in the generator. We use just regular heat exchangers to heat up the cold water and get the hot water to town. And the original fluid, we drop the pressure on that fluid so it boils. The water is then re-injected into the ground to maintain pressure in the geothermal system that we are harnessing, so it won't dry up or the pressure in it fall.
You harness more energy in Iceland than you need for the country.
Yeah, sure. A lot more. We are actually, I think we are producing the most energy per capita in the world, both in terms of pure energy and as in terms of renewable energy, because no country in the world has this high percentage of its energy production being generated with renewable sources.
The initial plans for this plant here, they were much smaller. And we just learned that when we started drilling,
that it was much more powerful area than we had anticipated. So now we already have these 4 engines here running. There's 1 engine here on the other side of the reception area, and there will be 2 more.
The naturally heated water that cycles through this plant provides energy for nearly 100,000 homes. And that's pretty much everyone in Reykjavik. The uses for this green and renewable energy source are endless. In Reykjavik, they've even installed hot water pipes underneath the sidewalks and streets to melt the snow as it falls. Can you blame them? There's so much heat here, they don't know what to do with it.
Actually, what we are seeing now, business-wise, is that the oil companies and the fossil fuel companies are becoming more and more interested in geothermal because it's renewable, and in a sense it requires the same core competencies: knowledge of geology, drilling technology. The well itself is drilled inside the globe. That's about, say, 2.5 to 3 kilometers deep, and the bottom of it is about a mile from here. Iceland is a rather expensive country, except in the terms of energy. Both electricity here and hot water for house heating is relatively cheap, and perhaps we use a bit of the money that we spare on a beer or 2 that keeps us warm inside also.
Leaving the confines of the city, I'm instantly overwhelmed by Iceland's mystical landscapes. Vast and barren, stoic and powerful, where rocks replace trees.
We can't understand the Icelandic people if we don't understand the climate, the volcanoes, and the mountains. People here are linked to this climate. They need to be in contact with these elements. There's a volcanic eruption right now in Iceland, and every day, thousands of people, locals, rush to the volcano so they can be closer to this element. So they go to the volcano by helicopter, plane, truck, snowmobile, or even on foot. That's the way it is here. It's part of the culture. I've brought you to Thingvellir, the plain of the parliament. It's a very important place for Reykjavik because of the history it holds. The Icelandic parliament was actually founded here in the year 930. It was an open-air parliament. There are no real buildings, but the nation was created here in the 10th century. Christianity was also adopted here in the year 1000. Geologically, this entire site is extremely important not only for Reykjavik, but also for the world, because it is the exact place where the American and European continental plates meet. Here's Reykjavik. We drove 35 kilometers and we're now north of this big lake, which was formed about 12,000 years ago when the continental plates moved farther apart. 12,000 years ago was actually the end of the last ice age, so the great Icelandic glaciers began to melt. As you can see here, the earth has split open. This fault is about 1 meter in width, but it's 20 or 30 meters deep. And not only do the plates move away from one another, they also progressively tilt and move towards the interior of the lake. The movements aren't steady movements, they're brutal ones. It is said that on the average, the land separates by 20 millimeters each year. But in reality, the events are very violent, during which the earth can open up by a meter. That can be pretty stressful, even terrorizing if you're here while it happens. There's a no man's land of about 15 kilometers that is neither part of America nor Europe. If you really think about it, we really should be under the Atlantic Ocean. But Iceland is what we call a hot spot, and this means that magma here constantly comes up from the mantle to pierce the Earth's crust.
Frequent earthquakes? I'd say that's a mild understatement. There have been more than 25,000 quakes over the last 10 years just around the lake. That's an average of almost 7 per day.
At the highest point, the fault is more than 30 meters high. And that's just the part we can see. In reality, it's almost 100 meters deep.
The view is breathtaking. And keep in mind, we're just a few kilometers from the center of town. Very few people can say they've walked between 2 continents. That's because this is the only place in the world where you can do that. The wall on my left, America, and the one on my right, Europe.
This rock is filled with mitrium, which you find everywhere in Iceland. It can make crusts of about 50 centimeters. We can see it clearly on the lava fields of the 17 and 1800s. It's rather gray now, but when it rains, it turns a magnificent bright green. In a few years, maybe 10 or 20 years, this moss will produce enough soil to enable the growth of higher plants and small trees. You can see some birch trees trying to grow here, but they look a bit odd because of the climate and obviously because of the wind.
As if this little trek wasn't precarious enough, we're now off to Geysers, a hotspot for sulfur springs and cauldron holes of boiling mud. It's not likely you'll find this close to home.
Notice that we have mud holes and not just water holes. This is because the layers of the earth are composed of pelagonite, which is a volcanic rock created when volcanic eruptions take place under the ice. Once in contact with the air, the sulfur from the eruptions turns into sulfuric acid. Here are the cauldron holes. The consistencies are very different in each of the holes. Some are very liquid, and others are denser.
Final destination? The Blue Lagoon Thermal Energy Plant, smack in the middle of an endless lava field and harnessing the energy of the forces beneath the barren surface. But as you'll see, here, they've also found another use for the hot water.
We're just crossing the lava field that surrounds the thermal plant. This is completely natural. The water is surplus seawater that comes from the plant. The plant generates electricity and hot water for a few villages on the coast. There are 3 typical temperatures for Icelandic basins like this one: 38, 41, and 43 degrees. It's all very simple to understand. As you dig deeper, the Earth's temperature rises very quickly. At a depth of just a few hundred meters, the temperature is already higher than 100 degrees. In the geothermal plants, we usually dig to about 2 kilometers underground. At that depth, the water is so hot that we obtain pressurized steam that is pushed up in the pipeline. The steam is not only used to spin the turbines that make electricity, but also to heat the cold water that is sent to the city.
After all we've heard so far, heating cold water may seem a bit odd when you have access to so much natural hot water. But the water here is loaded with minerals that cause clogs to form in the pipes that take the water from the plant to the city and into the homes. Not exactly practical. The solution is to use cold lake water and heat it with the hot steam that jets from the underground. Any more questions?
As the geothermal industry developed in Iceland, we realized it was less complicated and costly to heat the cold water with the steam rather than use the hot water itself.
Well, the one thing I didn't see much of in Iceland was ice. In fact, this is definitely a land of warmth. And Reykjavik, the city with the soul of a village, is a perfect place to discover that welcoming and comforting spirit. As a city, it is young, but the village that still glows in its core is old. Its myths, legends, and sagas have remained a vital part of Reykjavik's story, a story that promises to intrigue us for a long time to come.